We have this just into CNN. The president has just tweeted about North Korea. I'm going to quote his tweet here. He says the following: "We are having very productive talks with North Korea about reinstating the summit, which, if it does happen, will likely remain in Singapore on the same date, June 12th, and if necessary, will be extended beyond that date." There is that. And this. President Trump and his allies continue to press their unproven accusations that there was a spy implanted inside the Trump campaign. And both the White House chief of staff and President Trump's new in-house Russia investigation lawyer were turned away from a classified meeting on Capitol Hill because some lawmakers thought, understandably, it was inappropriate. This according to a congressional source. In other words, a typical week in the Trump White House, a typical week in Washington, a typical week in America. I'm joined now by Maggie Haberman, covers the White House for the New York Times and knows a thing or two about President Trump. Let's start with North Korea because it's whiplash in the last 24 hours. The meeting was off in something of a nuclear Dear John letter, Trump to Kim.
It's a great phrase you coined.
It's, both saying, hey, call me if you want to talk again, but also reminding him that we have a very big nuclear arsenal. And now 24 hours later, he's saying, hey, you know what, it may happen again. What's happening here?
Look, number one, this is actually very similar to the approach that he has taken with a lot of world leaders and a lot of people who have been, if not always adversarial toward the U.S., certainly not allies. There was something about that letter that was almost like what you would have seen real estate developer Donald Trump send to the community board about issues with a zoning on a zoning issue on a project. He does want this summit to happen. My understanding from a couple of people is he did indeed cancel because he was afraid he would get canceled on, and he wanted to set the terms of debate. And then he started anew. This morning he was telling several people that he believed the North Koreans would give in ultimately, and that this meeting would still happen. He still sees this as an attainable goal, and in his mind, it is the ultimate deal. And in contrast to Mideast peace, which I think he has begun to realize is less likely, and that it is something that will make his critics praise him, which at the end of the day is the validation that he is seeking. We are not really anywhere different than we were yesterday, and that is often what happens with Trump in these negotiations. Is it looks like a lot of activity, but not much has changed. This meeting may still happen, and it may not.
Does he want the summit, or does he want a successful negotiation?
He wants a successful negotiation, but whether the difference between U.S. diplomatic efforts and standards versus what he would like to see, as has happened repeatedly, are going to get tested. And I'm not sure how he is going to define a successful effort beyond, as you were talking about before, total denuclearization, which is really unlikely.
Right. And is it, I think a lot of folks at home might be wondering the same question. Is this part of a strategy? Is there a plan, right? Or is it reactive? Trump kind of playing Trump here to some degree?
There isn't usually a plan. It's a lot of tactics, but there is not a grand map that he is going by. A lot of this is just playing off of whatever is in front of him in that given moment. And he, whenever he says, we'll see what happens, it is often kind of filler, but it is actually how he sees it.
Okay, that's a fact. We will see what happens.
I mean, it is what it is. There is often with Trump, what you see is actually what's there, and that is the case here.
So we had another issue, we had another case where the White House's initial story turned out not to be accurate or was contradicted by a later story or explanation. This dealt with Chief of Staff John Kelly, the president's lawyer, the White House counsel Emmett Flynn, dealing with the Russia investigation, showing up at this classified briefing on the Hill, which relates to an ongoing investigation to which the president is a party. The White House had said yesterday, listen, they were always going to leave after making an initial statement. It's CNN's reporting today that actually they might have wanted to stay.
Right, and I saw that reporting. I don't have that confirmed on my own, but it is not surprising. This is exactly the type of, pushing of the lines that we have seen, or trying to erase the lines that we have seen this White House do, particularly when it relates to an investigation into this president, or at least into this president's campaign. And this has been the latest in a series of these kinds of moves over the last 2 weeks. I heard from a lot of people yesterday on the Congress side, and then just on the legal side, about just how inappropriate it would be to have had Emmett Flood in particular there. It would not have been good to have had John Kelly there either. But Emmett Flood is there to defend the president in the Russia probe. That is the kind of intermingling that we saw the other day when you saw the president pushing for DOJ to make information available to Congress in the first place. Again, with this president, he will constantly push to see how far he can reset the limit. And if people don't stop him, he will just go through.
And we'll see it. There will be approbation, and it'll happen again.
Correct.
Maggie Haberman, thanks very much.
Thank you.